Hey everyone, welcome back to Daily Devotions. Pastor Steve walking with you in the promises of God. And as we are in the Torah, we are in the first 5 books of the Bible, the Pentateuch. So many names for these first 5 books of the Bible. Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy. That's where we settle in today. Deuteronomy, and a sermon, a writing, a final writing of Moses being able to leave the Israelites with this. He has journeyed with them all the way from being raised in Egypt and then fleeing Egypt and bringing Israel out of Egypt with the mighty word of the Lord through the Red Sea, through the wanderings. Now they're peering over. The promised land. And as they're peering over, he's giving them these incredible words to be able to walk together in. And so what we have in Deuteronomy is that sermon from Moses, but really the word of God. And we can't pass over. Yes, there are promises involved, but you just can't pass over Deuteronomy 6, this incredible command, but this incredible life hearing. And what I mean by that is hear the word of the Lord and walk in his ways. So that when, big word in Deuteronomy, when, I just love that futuristic and I love that promise fulfilled word, when you are in the promised land, when you are multiplying as the Lord promised, when you occupy these cities, when the Lord is going to fight your battles and you're going to win. Take a look at that word win, W-H-E-N. A promise, a trust in the scriptures when God does this, meaning that we trust that he's going to do it because he's given all these promises and now they're being fulfilled. Deuteronomy chapter 6, we're going to read a little excerpt in this. We're going to pick out the wins as we read together. So chapter 6, verse 1, Deuteronomy. These are the commands, decrees, and laws that the Lord your God directed me to teach you to observe in the land that you are crossing the Jordan to possess, so that you, your children, and their children after them may fear the Lord your God as long as you live, by keeping all his decrees and commands that I give you, and so that you may enjoy long life. Hear, O Israel, and be careful to obey, so that it may go well with you, and that you may increase greatly in a land flowing with milk and honey, just as the Lord, the God of your fathers, promised you. Promised before Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, your people will come back to this place. And now they're peering into this place. Yes, hundreds of years later, 430 years later, coming out of Egypt, and 470 years, 40 years wandering in the desert. The promise still stands, and the promise is fulfilled that God brought them back to this place. He greatly increased their number, and so he's going to bring it. They're going to come in and occupy the promised land. So, verse 4, it says, Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, and with all your soul, and with all your strength. These commandments that I give you today are to be upon your hearts. Impress them on your children. Talk about them when you sit at home, and when you walk along the road, when you lie down, and when you get up. Tie them as symbols on your hands and bind them on your foreheads. Write them on the door frames of your houses and on your gates. Just want to bring that forth again. It says, talk about them when you sit at home. What a great promise that he's making there. Here they've wandered in the desert for 40 years, living out of tents and living mobile, this kind of Bedouin lifestyle. But impress them upon your children. When you're sitting at home, what a great promise. I have a home, a solid root that's going to be put down and staying somewhere when you sit at home, right? When you lie down, when you're actually in comfort, because you haven't been in comfort in these last 40 years. These people aren't going into the promised land, but their generations will. So when you have a home, when you lie down, what a great promise, what a great trust we have that they're going to have that. And then as it goes on in verse 10, it says, when the Lord your God brings you into the land he swore to your fathers, I trust that he's going to do it when he does it, not if he does it, but when, to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, to give you a land with large flourishing cities you did not build, houses filled with all kinds of good things you did not provide, wells you did not dig, and vineyards and olive groves you did not plant. Then, when you eat and are satisfied. Be careful that you do not forget the Lord who brought you out of Egypt, out of the land of slavery. When God does this, make sure that you remember that it's his promises fulfilled rather than the things you just expect. You didn't expect, you don't expect to be able to have different food every single day because you've been eating manna and quail and just getting water out of rocks for 40 years. Remember, when you go into this place and it's going to look like a different life, it's all a provision of God. Remember, when God gives you this land, this home, this provision, it's of the Lord. And don't just expect that it was just something that you deserve. For it is by grace that God gives to us our provision. Verse 13, fear the Lord your God, serve him only, and take your oaths in his name. Do not follow other gods, the gods of the peoples around you, for the Lord your God, who is among you, is a jealous God, and his anger will burn against you, and he will destroy you from the face of the land. Do not test the Lord your God as you did at Massah. Be sure to keep the commands of the Lord your God and the stipulations and decrees he has given you. Do what is right and good in the Lord's sight, so that it may go well with you, and you may go in and take over the good land that the Lord promised on oath to your forefathers, thrusting out all your enemies before you, as the Lord said. In the future, when your son asks you, what is the meaning of the stipulations, decrees, and laws the Lord our God has commanded you? Tell him, we were slaves of Pharaoh in Egypt, but the Lord brought us out of Egypt with a mighty hand. Before our eyes the Lord sent miraculous signs and wonders, great and terrible, upon Egypt and Pharaoh and his whole household. But he brought us out from there to bring us in and give us the land that he promised an oath to our forefathers. The Lord commanded us to obey all these decrees and fear the Lord our God, so that we might always prosper and be kept alive, as is the case today. And if we are careful to obey all this law before the Lord our God, as he commanded us, that will be our righteousness. Two things I want you to pick up there is being able to say, when God does this, meaning he's going to do this. He's promised and he fulfills his promises. So when you're in the land, when you have that home, when you have that food, trust always in God's provision. Maybe not in your timing, but when God determines his timing, he truly will fulfill it. And we trust that. When is it going to be that somebody fears the Lord and serves him only? When is it going to be that somebody doesn't put the Lord his God to the test? Oh, these are two quotes, verse 13 and 16, that Jesus used when he was tempted. When the Lord sends the Messiah, he will do all the things of the will of God and fulfill them, all promises. Every fulfillment is a yes in Jesus. When God brought Israel to the place he wanted them, the promised land, he provided. When the time had fully come, God sent Jesus, born in Bethlehem, to grow up, to live, to die, to rise. So that when we have questions, doubts, fears, chaos of this world, we can just keep our eyes fixed on Jesus. Because when we are weak, then he is strong. Our God, always providing. Let's trust in the when of what God has determined for our lives. Have a blessed day, trusting Jesus in all you say and all that you do. Have a blessed day.